But anyways, yeah.
I'm going to try to answer some outside questions. It's actually kind of piling up, so I'm going to hit you with like a shotgun effect there, Rab, in a second. I do appreciate everyone coming by. Thank you so much. We couldn't do the show without you. So Lorraine says in the outside chat, if a covenant with God is between you and Hashem, why convert at all? Then isn't a Christian or a Muslim doing the same thing when he keeps Torah or whatever the case may be?
Mm-hmm. Entering a covenant with God is a two-step process. First, accepting Torah like the Israelites and the mixed multitude accepting Torah on Mount Sinai. That's one. And two is entering the Jewish people. However, if you can't do the second step, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to do the first step. Anyone who has the ability to convert and chooses to just live Torah alone is wasting his existence as a religious person. Making this world a better place is a team effort, is aligning yourself with like-minded individuals. This is why God created Israel. Israel is not a people in God's perspective. Israel is a philosophy. He used the people to spread this good news, this gospel. I was reading in Sefer Yeshayahu, the word gospel appears in the book of Isaiah to proclaim the good news among the nations. What do you think good news is? It's gospel, right? I mean, people are always like trying to make a distinction between Christianity. Torah is the gospel. So this is why God created this notion of Israel, a like-minded group of individuals moving in one direction, taking people with them. That's the whole purpose of being Jewish. If someone just wants to be Jewish alone, it means that you just care about yourself. If someone just wants to keep mitzvot alone, keep Shabbat alone, just him and his family and this and that, like you're not doing anything different than what most Jews do. And these are not people we need. You have to start thinking about your neighbor. You start thinking about your cousins. If you have a friend who's doing drugs, who's beating his wife, no, Torah is there to help that person. But how are they going to know about it if you don't mention it? So this is why not being active with a community, it's ultimately a sin. If you're calling yourself a searcher of truth and not wanting to go all the way, you're not just wasting God's time, you're wasting my time.
That was actually a good response. I thank you. We do got a lot of comments coming in. Lisa says, we need more rabbis willing to teach non-Jewish people how to do it right instead of the ones I've run into refuses to teach and allow non-Jewish people to participate in Jewish holidays.
Well, you guys aren't non-Jews. If you haven't converted yet, you're spiritually part of Israel. You're in a covenant with God. Don't call yourself a Gentile. A Gentile means of the nations. Gentile is really synonymous with idolater. According to Halakha, Gentile is synonymous with idolater. The notion of a Ger Toshav doesn't exist nowadays. Okay, according to Halakha, a Ger Toshav can only be made when the Jubilee is kept, when we're back in the land. Even then, I don't think a Ger Toshav existed outside of the Torah. There's no instance of a Ger Toshav anywhere in Tanakh who identify themselves as a Ger Toshav. Now, someone's going to say, well, Abraham said that he's a Ger, but then God says that Israel are Gerim on his land. But that doesn't mean Ger Toshav, someone who's bound to 7 laws. Not that the Torah even mentions 7 laws. If you guys are listening to me and believing what I'm telling you, that the Torah applies to you, then don't call yourself a Gentile. You're someone who's in the process of conversion. That's it. The Torah belongs to you. You're not a Gentile.
A lot of people are out there saying that process that you were saying before, going from Christian to Messianic to Jewish, is pretty much how they became observant Jews today. So it seems
obviously,
like a lot of people,
no, people deny. Like, you know how many converts I've met to Judaism who deny that they're converts?
I don't tell people I converted.
Not just that they deny it. When a Messianic comes to them or a former Messianic comes for guidance, they'll be like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm a born Jew, or I'm Sephardi." This is one big thing in the Spanish world. Everyone is Sephardi, and everyone is banana steam. Come on, guys. I'm just saying the Jews left Spain over 500 years ago. But you may have Jewish blood, but to say that you have some direct connection to some Spaniard 500 years ago, that's very hard to believe. And not that it would matter, right? I mean, a convert is just as much as Israel as a born Jew, at least from a Torah perspective.
Thank you for that. So I answered all the questions out in the outside chat. So does anyone have their hand raised? Oh, Callie Jones, what's going on, my brother? You're driving tonight or are you home?
Too much. Got bad service. My question, breakdown of the different, I guess, not sects, but organizations of Orthodox Judaism like Aish and Young Israel, Breslov, Satmar,
Oh, boy.
Chabad, and
We're going to be here all night, actually.
Yeah. All right. So I'll tell you the popular ones. So
Okay.
Breslov is actually making it's actually getting pretty big in America. Breslov is huge in Israel. It's famous in America because of Rabbi Arush and his books, Garden of Emunah, people like Rav Dror, Lazer Brody. That's Breslov, but it's huge in Israel. In Israel, they have these vans that drive around with people dancing on the roofs, tossing out CDs and, like smoking tons of pot.
Not.
Yeah, right. I don't want to give Breslov a bad name. That's Nanach, and they're part of Breslov, but not all Breslovs are Nanachs.
It'd be like Chabad, and then you have Chabad Lubavitch, which are the Messianics.
No. Every Chabad is Chabad Lubavitch. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, Chabad Lubavitch, and then you have
like Meshachistim. So Meshachistim are the people who believe the Rebbe is the Messiah, but that's really all of them. I believe all Lubavitches believe the Rebbe.
At least secretly, yeah, everyone.
Right. Well, to some extent, right? I mean, some believe that he never died; he's here, so it depends. So Chabad is huge, but Chabad is not the largest Orthodox group. People think it is. It's not. Actually, Square Hasidim in New Square, New York, they're a lot bigger than Chabad. You just don't know of them because they're sort of stay in little pockets. I mean, Chabad is all over the place, but Chabad Nicks, like the Shluchim, it's not that many. Satmar, you'll find them in two places. In this place called Monroe in upstate New York. Inside Monroe, there's a little town called Kiryat Yol, and that's where they live. There's another Rebbe, a Satmar Rebbe, Rav Zalman Leib. He lives in Williamsburg. All right, Satmars are kind of like the hardcore ones. The women, they shave their heads. I mean, what else can I tell you?
They wear those pantyhose that are super. Yeah, that's.
Oh well, no. All Orthodox women who are not modern Orthodox would not wear sheer pantyhose.
Yeah.
It's really a machloket if they're covering what's called a shuk. Next, let's see. All right, so Young Israel. Young Israel is probably the most popular modern Orthodox movement in America. Now, you'd be surprised to hear that Young Israel was actually founded by conservative Jews. Conservative Judaism was Orthodox Judaism till, I believe, 1956. Actually, JTS, which is Jewish Theological Seminary, was founded as a traditional Orthodox yeshiva, but it was a little more modern. It was really modern Orthodoxy at the time, and it wasn't until 1956 that the conservative movement said you could drive to synagogue that the riff really became apparent. But the founders of Young Israel were, I believe, JTS graduates. So Young Israel, I mean, that's where I go. That's typically the modern Orthodox hub of any Orthodox community, right? The rabbi will probably be clean-shaven. Ultra-Orthodox Haredi-style Young Israels do exist, but the vast majority of them are more modern. Aish Torah. So Aish Torah is a school I went to in Jerusalem. I mean, I went to Or Sameach also, but like my main yeshiva where I dormed at was Aish Torah. So Aish Torah in America is not that big. There's one in New York. There's one in Denver. There's one somewhere in Texas. There's one in South Florida. Aish Torah is actually Haredi, but they're very similar to Chabad in the sense that they're known for outreach.
Kiruv.
Right, Kiruv. But Chabad doesn't, the word Kiruv, that's a Litvish word. Chabad uses the word shlichus.
Oh, yeah.
Shlichut. So they believe in outreach, by Jews, for Jews. And I remember they became really famous through the Discovery Seminar. They had this seminar that would travel the world, mainly in America, and like JCCs trying to convince secular Jews of Bible truths. They had one on the Bible codes. They also have like a history seminar. They throw spirituality in there. So Aish Torah is Orthodoxy, traditional like Litvish Orthodoxy, but it seems a little more modern just because the people who attend are about Shuvas. The ideology is Haredi all the way. There's so many small groups out there, so many dynasties, Bobov and Bells. I guess we could lump that all into just Hasidic Judaism. And, Biala, or Dej, whatever. Okay.
Dej, yeah. I went to a Dej shul. They're interesting people.
Yeah, the Dej Rebbe. All right, next.
Do all Orthodox rabbis ask you if you believe in Jesus, or like a must ask?
Yes. Well, there's no law for this, obviously, but I was part of a Beit Din that was recognized. I've been through a lot of conversions that I was just a witness, and I've always heard them ask. But, I mean, you never know.
Why did they ask whether or not you believe in Yashka?
Well, what do you think? Because they don't want to convert Christians.
Ah, okay. Just getting it out of the way. They just double. I mean, if you're there showing up, I mean, are you really a Christian if you're showing up?
Well, you could be a Messianic Jew. I'm not saying that I agree with them. I'm just telling you this is what's done.
Oh, you're saying that the people that go through conversions just for the sake of converting Orthodox or to infiltrate?
Well, I mean, right. Well, some people believe in trying to convert Orthodox Jews by becoming an Orthodox Jew and just, I don't know, in the Shabbos table.
So
Okay.
Giving an altar call or whatever.
do they always word it like, do you believe in Jesus, or do they just ask if you're a Christian, or what?
I've heard it worded. See, here, look, most Orthodox Jews know very little about Christianity. They always blur the lines. They think that all Christian preachers are priests, that they can't get married. They'll say it like, well, do you believe God has a son? Or do you believe God is three? Well, they don't know much about Christianity. Some may know. Like if they're
What if the guy shows up? What if you showed up and you say, "Yeah, my Rebbe's the outspoon and the goof of Hashem"? What do you think they would say to you?
Oh, it depends. A lot of people dislike Chabad.
I've had people tell me that they won't give Chabadniks a Aliyah on Shabbos.
The reason I'm saying this is because what Yochanan is saying, that statement, Chabad teaches that a Rebbe is the Atmut in a goof, that he's the divine essence in bodily form. There's many people who won't convert you if you believe what Chabad believes. All right, that means you'd have to convert through Chabad. Yeah, that would be a double standard too, because the book of Colossians says that in JC dwells the divine essence in bodily form, and this is exactly what Chabad teaches about the Rebbe.
Jacob Hope, thank you for coming by. You have your hand raised. You would like to speak? You got the floor.
Yes, hello. Hi. Yes, we're calling from Charlotte, North Carolina, just a little background. And so we're both planning on getting, civilly married, and we're going to be moving close, well, I guess walking distance, to our school. And so we were reading in this one book that said once we convert, and then there was going to be some sort of waiting period before we could have a Jewish wedding, and we were just wondering if you know anything about that.
Yes. This is brought down that I believe the waiting period is 3 months, right? I think
That's what I had heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or read.
It's a shame that they're doing this, but this is to make sure that your children are conceived in holiness. This is not something I do, by the way. Even though the Rambam brings it down, it's not something I do because this is something that could be determined with a birth control test. And this is something I've never spoken about on the air just because it really sounds discouraging. So what's typically done, they make the woman or the husband separate for 3 months. That means they either live with a family in the community. I don't know what they do, but they can't live together for 3 months. After that, then they get married. And this is to make sure that the woman is not pregnant. And use the phrase that the children should be conceived in holiness, and that she's not pregnant before she goes to the mikveh. There's a way around it. I mean, I mentioned it once, I think, in a video. But if this is what the court does, this is what that court does. Not all courts do this, but some do. You could ask the Beit Din not to do it and see what they say, because
I'm not arguing against it at all. I was just really curious about it. It's not really discouraging.
All right. Having to live in someone else's house for 3 months is kind of discouraging for me. I mean, some people have other practices. I remember, according to the Ramah, that when someone converts, they have to shave all their hair, including your eyebrows. That actually happened to a friend of mine. So people have weird practices. I don't know where that came from. I don't think the separation is in the Mishnah, but the Rambam does mention it. I would make the argument to the rabbi, say, look, it doesn't say this in the Mishnah. It probably doesn't even say it in the Talmud. Can we not do this? Or can I at least do a birth control test before I get married? And some say that fulfills that requirement.
Well, I just think that is very interesting. So thank you for your response.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry. Such a shame.
Do you think questioning the Rav on that would mess up the conversion? I wouldn't push it.
I wouldn't push it either. I really have no issue with it. I just kind of wanted to know more about it.
No, come on. Any Rav should be able to put himself in the shoes of the person he's converting. Would he separate? He has to separate from his wife 2 weeks a month to do it for 3 months. Sometimes these rabbis don't sympathize with the people who are going through a conversion process, and that's really when it becomes disgusting. They're like, oh, well, you have to jump through all these hoops to get where I am. I mean, you were born Jewish.
I think you would do, and I think it's good that you can be open with that, Rob, of what you struggle with.
He's a very understanding guy.
Yeah, definitely.